Welcome to True Echo, where real stories echo louder than fiction. In today's powerful story, a group of teenagers mocks a 62-year-old homeless man at McDonald's. But what happens next shocks an entire community, exposes deep truths, and changes lives forever. This isn't just a story about cruelty, it's about courage, kindness, and the ripple effect one person can make. Stay with us until the end. You'll never see a quiet coffee shop the same way again. It was just past 3 o'clock on a drizzly Tuesday afternoon when Raymond Ellerby walked through the doors of the McDonald's on Vine Street. The bell above the glass entrance let out a lazy chime as he entered, head slightly bowed, as if the weight of the sky outside had followed him in. The restaurant buzzed with casual noise, orders being called, fries dropping into hot oil, kids laughing over milkshakes. No one noticed him. No one ever did. Raymond moved with a slow limp toward the far window booth, the one with the view of the faded mural across the street that no one looked at anymore. His jacket, once military green, had faded to a lifeless gray, the cuffs frayed like brittle rope. His boots, old, scuffed, and duct-taped at the soles, dragged slightly with each step. He held a small brown paper bag like it carried something more than a sandwich. But it didn't. Inside was a napkin, an old photograph, and 2 ketchup packets he hadn't used from a previous visit. He placed the bag on the table, sat down slowly, and took a sip of his coffee, black, lukewarm, and his only meal that day. Across the restaurant, 3 teenagers burst through the door laughing, pushing one another, the slap of sneakers and the high-pitched whoop of adolescent ego immediately filling the air. One of them, tall, lanky, red hoodie, held his phone up, recording nothing in particular. Another wore a black beanie and chewed on a straw wrapper, eyes darting for entertainment. The third, shorter and stockier, slapped the counter twice and barked their order like a YouTube comedian in a challenge video. They noticed Raymond almost immediately. "Yo, check this out," Red Hoodie whispered, nudging the beanie boy and pointing toward the corner. "Walking trash bag, 3 o'clock. Beanie snorted. "Nah bro, that's vintage. That man's dressed like 1974 threw up." They slid into the booth 2 tables behind Raymond, still snickering, loud enough for others to hear, but not so loud that they had to take responsibility. Raymond didn't turn around. Didn't flinch. He just stared into the black pool of his coffee, a flicker of tension tightening the skin at his jawline. The jokes escalated. "Somebody call animal control," Red Hoodie shouted, loud enough this time. "We got a raccoon eating ketchup packets." Laughter sliced through the dining room. A few customers glanced up but quickly looked away, pretending not to hear. A woman by the door shifted her gaze to her fries. A man 2 tables over just adjusted his earbuds and kept scrolling. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Except for one person. Near the soda fountain, at a corner booth almost invisible to the chaos, sat Jasmine Holloway. 17 years old, wearing a faded maroon McDonald's uniform, her name tag crooked and barely hanging on. She was on break, earbuds in, scrolling through job listings on a cracked phone. She wasn't looking to save the world. Just trying to get out of this job and into something that didn't leave her smelling like grease and broken dreams. But something in the laughter, that harsh, arrogant rhythm, snapped her attention. She looked up. Saw the boys. Saw Raymond. She paused her music. Watched a second longer. Then sighed. No eye roll. No big heroic swell. Just a long, weary breath that said, "Fine. I guess it's me." She stood, pushed her cup of Sprite aside, and walked toward Raymond's table. The boys noticed her coming. Red Hoodie grinned. Oh snap, she about to give her man some fries. Jasmine didn't flinch. She walked past them, straight to Raymond, and sat down across from him like it was the most normal thing in the world. Raymond didn't look up. His hands were still wrapped around the cup like it might disappear. "I'm Jasmine," she said quietly. "You okay, sir?" He didn't respond. Not right away. His mouth moved like it wanted to, but the words stayed trapped somewhere in his chest. From behind her, another laugh. Ayo, this gotta be a TikTok thing, right? McRescue, Homeless Edition. More laughter, but it was different now. Uneasy. Like even they weren't sure if this was still funny. Jasmine didn't answer them. Instead, she reached into her apron and pulled out a fresh apple pie, untouched, warm. She slid it across the table. You don't have to eat it, she said. But I figured, maybe you haven't had anything sweet today. That's when Raymond looked up. And that's when everything started to change. Raymond's eyes met Jasmine's, slow and heavy. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much and been seen too little. For a moment, the chaos around them disappeared. The laughter from the booth behind them dulled like background noise on a radio station someone had stopped tuning. Behind her, Red Hoodie shifted in his seat, lifting his phone higher and turning it toward them like a reality show camera. Ayo, this is gold, he said, voice full of fake drama. She gonna feed him now? Like Lady and the Tramp, but sadder. His friends laughed, but it was hollow. Even they felt it, the room shifting, the balance tilting. People were beginning to notice. One man near the back paused with his tray, staring. A woman leaned over to whisper to her husband. Still, Jasmine didn't respond to the boys. Her eyes stayed on Raymond. You don't owe me anything, she said gently. I just didn't want you to feel like you were invisible. Raymond's lips twitched, just slightly. It wasn't a smile, but it wasn't nothing either. Then he spoke, voice cracked like a windshield spidered by time and weather. Ain't had pie in a long time. I figured, Jasmine said. You deserve something good today. Why? He asked softly, unsure if it was a challenge or genuine confusion. Why would you care? Because someone should, she replied. Behind her, Beanie Boy leaned forward. What, you his sponsor or something? He snorted. You doin' this for clout? Jasmine turned then, calm but sharp, her tone steel-wrapped silk. I'm just being a decent human being. Y'all should try it sometime. Red Hoodie raised his phone like a shield. Yo, say that again for the camera, McQueen. She locked eyes with him. You filming people without asking? He hesitated. I mean, it's not illegal. No, she cut him off. It's just trash behavior. For a moment, you could hear the fryers in the kitchen hiss behind the counter. Even the soda fountain bubbled more quietly. A silence descended. Not the kind born of fear, but of realization. Why you even care? Beanie Boy blurted out again, pushing it too far. He stinks, man. He smells like a bus seat in July. Jasmine stood up, not fast, not dramatic. Just firm. Her presence filled the space without shouting. Her voice, steady and proud, sliced through the restaurant. That man served in the military, she said. That man could be your grandfather. You think it's funny? You think he's beneath you because he's sitting alone, wearing worn-out clothes, drinking a $1 coffee? That man risked his life for a country that forgot his name. And y'all got the nerve to laugh like you earned something? The words landed like bricks. Even the woman with the baby stopped mid-bite. The guy near the counter slowly lowered his phone. In the back, the manager peeked his head around the corner, clipboard in hand, eyes wide. Raymond looked away, clearly uncomfortable. Please, he murmured, voice low. Don't make a scene for me. Jasmine leaned slightly toward him. You're not the one making the scene. That's when an older man in a Reds baseball cap stood up. He'd been watching since the beginning but hadn't spoken until now. Everything all right here? He asked Jasmine. She nodded. Just reminding a few folks how to act. The man turned toward the teens. His voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. You kids need to leave him alone. The boys didn't move at first. Red Hoodie looked to his friends like he was trying to decide if backing down would make him look weak. But the look in the man's eyes, the unwavering stillness, broke something. Wasn't that serious, Beanie muttered. Then it won't be that serious for you to leave, the man said flatly. Raymond cleared his throat. I don't want no trouble. Jasmine looked at him. You didn't start it. She turned to the boys, pointing at the one still holding the phone. Go ahead. Post your little video. But when people ask who stood up and who acted like punks, they'll know the difference. That boy lowered the phone slowly. His hands were shaking. And just when it seemed like maybe, just maybe, the moment had reached its peak, something happened that no one expected. The boy in the black beanie, who'd been silent the longest, leaned forward with a cruel grin. You homeless, 'cause you lazy or just dumb? The whole restaurant seemed to inhale at once. Even his friends stared at him in stunned silence. Raymond didn't move. Didn't react. Just looked up at the boy slowly. And then he spoke. Raymond's voice, when it came, was so soft it made everyone lean in. Not loud. Not angry. Just steady, like steel wrapped in sorrow. I was in Kandahar when you were still figuring out how to tie your shoes, he said. The boy in the beanie blinked, thrown off by the directness. I watched friends die for a country that lets me sleep behind a gas station, Raymond continued, his voice cracking ever so slightly. I came back with metal in my hip, pain in my back, and a government check that stopped 2 years too early. His words cut sharper than any insult the teens could have crafted. My wife left. My son stopped speaking to me. I used to fix HVACs, crawlspaces, rooftops, wiring systems. But try carrying a ladder when your legs don't work right anymore. Try getting hired when you smell like the street. Try asking for help when pride is the only thing you've got left. The boy in the beanie dropped his gaze. Raymond leaned back and added, I ain't dumb. And I sure as hell ain't lazy. No one spoke. A hush had overtaken the entire restaurant. People weren't just watching anymore, they were feeling it. Behind the counter, a teenage cashier stood frozen. The older man in the Reds cap slowly nodded, eyes glassy. And Jasmine, she didn't cry. But her chest rose and fell in deep, quiet breaths like someone holding back a storm. After a long pause, she reached into her back pocket, pulled out her worn wallet, and slid a $20 bill across the table. I know it's not much, she said. But you deserve better than this. Raymond stared at the bill like it was a foreign object. His lips parted slightly, his jaw tightening. I ain't asking for a handout, he murmured. I didn't say you did, Jasmine replied. I'm offering one anyway. There was a calm force in her tone, gentle, but unwavering. Around the restaurant, people began shifting. A woman near the soda machine clapped. It wasn't dramatic or loud, just one, uncertain clap. Then another person joined. Then another. It grew, not into a performance, but something real. Something rooted in the human instinct to right a wrong. The manager emerged from the back, confusion on his face. What's going on out here? He asked, eyes darting across the dining room. But no one answered. Because at that moment, another voice rose from the back of the room. Excuse me. It was quiet, uncertain, but carried weight. A man in dress slacks and a half-tucked button-up stood near the back, both hands flat on his table. He looked like he'd come straight from an office. Like he hadn't expected to speak. You said Kandahar, he asked, eyes locked on Raymond. Raymond nodded slowly. Yeah. 2007, Echo Company. 3rd Battalion. The man stepped forward, recognition spreading across his face. My cousin was there, he said, voice cracking. Didn't make it home. Raymond looked down, heavy. A lot of good ones didn't. The man nodded, stepping forward again. I just wanted to say thank you. Raymond gave the smallest of nods. But the eye contact lasted longer than a heartbeat. It said more than words ever could. In the booth beside the door, someone whispered, "He was really in the military?" The reply came quickly, quietly. "Yeah. And we've been laughing at him like he's a joke." Jasmine stayed quiet, letting the moment breathe. Then, Raymond turned slightly toward the boys who had gone silent. Their laughter had vanished, replaced by discomfort and shame. "You think you're better than me?" Raymond asked softly. "Because your sneakers are clean and your phone's new. I was 17 when I enlisted. Thought I'd see the world. Do something that mattered." He paused. "I came back with half a spine and a head full of static. You don't know what that's like. But one day, you will. You'll lose something. Or someone. Or maybe you'll lose yourself." He looked toward Jasmine and said, "And I pray, on that day, someone is there for you like she was for me." She shifted slightly in her seat, visibly moved. "You don't have to explain yourself," she said. "You never did." Raymond turned to the boys again. "But maybe they need to hear it." From the far end of the room, a woman with gray-streaked braids walked over, denim jacket decorated with patches. She held out a McDonald's bag and 2 bottled waters. "I don't mean to intrude," she said softly. "But I got some extra sandwiches. Figured you might want one for later." Raymond blinked. "You sure?" She smiled. "I'm sure." And just like that, a dam broke in the room. People began approaching Raymond, not with pity, but with respect. A scarf. A coffee. A quiet, "Thank you." Even the manager, still processing the whirlwind in front of him, came forward. "Sir," he said awkwardly. "We don't usually do this, but, if you'd like a meal, hot meal, it's on us today." Raymond nodded, swallowing hard. "I ain't cried in public since my mama died," he muttered. "You're allowed to," Jasmine said quietly. The mood had shifted from shame to compassion. From mockery to reverence. But just when things began to settle, a man by the drink machine stepped forward slowly, staring at Raymond like he was looking at a ghost. "Wait a minute," the man said. "Your name's Ellerby." Raymond turned, surprised. "Yeah. You used to live on Camden Avenue, right? About 20 years ago?" Raymond squinted, then widened his eyes. "Craig Ellison." The man beamed. "Yes. You fixed my furnace when I bought my first house." Raymond laughed, an actual, dry, brief chuckle. "Little blue house with the busted pilot light." Craig snapped his fingers. "That's the one. You saved me $600 that day. When I offered to tip you, you refused. Said, just pay it forward someday." Raymond looked stunned. "Didn't think anyone would remember that." "I did," Craig said. "And now it's my turn." He pulled out his wallet and set a crisp $100 bill on the table beside the waters. "I know it won't fix everything," he said. "But I hope it makes today a little easier." No applause this time. Just quiet reverence. The teens sat frozen. The weight of what they'd started, and what they now witnessed, settling over them like a fog. One of them finally whispered, "I think we really messed up." No one disagreed. The tension that once hung in the restaurant had dissolved into something unspoken but heavy, like a storm that had passed but left puddles of reflection behind. The laughter, the mockery, the self-important snickering that had filled the air just 30 minutes ago now seemed like a distant memory. Raymond didn't reach for the $100 bill immediately. He stared at it like it might vanish if he touched it. He wasn't used to kindness being real, not like this, not warm, not public, not without strings. Craig, the man with the furnace memory, gave him a respectful nod. "No pressure," he said. "Just know that some debts get remembered, even if it takes a while." Raymond nodded slowly, then slid the bill closer with the tips of his fingers. I appreciate it. More than you know. Behind them, the three boys who had started the entire ordeal sat in stunned silence. Red Hoodie had finally set his phone face down on the table, his eyes fixed on the wrapper of his half-eaten burger. Beanie stared at the floor, foot tapping with anxious energy, his arrogance drained like air from a popped balloon. The third boy, who had barely spoken, suddenly leaned toward Jasmine and spoke in a voice so quiet it barely rose above the hum of the air conditioner. I didn't know, he said. Jasmine turned to him, her expression unreadable. You didn't want to know, she replied, her voice even but firm. There's a difference. The boy looked away, cheeks flushed. Just then, another customer approached. A woman with silver streaks in her braids and a denim jacket with a patch sewn over the breast that read, U.S. Army Mom. Her eyes were glassy with emotion. My son was in Fallujah, she said softly. He didn't make it home. But I want to thank you, sir. For your service. Raymond blinked rapidly, mouth opening and closing without sound. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Just enough to be felt. Just enough to show she meant it. That was when something incredible happened, subtle, but undeniable. The people in the restaurant stopped being strangers. Someone pulled napkins from the dispenser and offered them to the woman. A man grabbed a fresh coffee from the front counter and wordlessly set it beside Raymond. A few teens at a nearby booth whispered to each other, not about the food or TikTok, but about what they'd just seen. And then came the quiet offer from Jasmine. Veterans Connect, she said, pulling a napkin from her apron pocket and scribbling a number on it. They're a non-profit. They help veterans like you get housing, healthcare, whatever they can. I called them once for my uncle. Maybe they can help you, too. Raymond hesitated. Not out of doubt, but disbelief. You sure they won't just see me and turn the other way? Jasmine leaned in. They've seen your video. A woman named Bethany wants to talk to you. I already called. He looked down at the napkin like it was gold leaf. His fingers trembled as he folded it and tucked it into the breast pocket of his faded jacket. Thank you, he said. I don't know what I did to deserve all this today. Jasmine smiled. Sometimes, all it takes is showing up. Across the room, the manager, who had barely processed the emotional hurricane that hit his restaurant, stepped out and cleared his throat awkwardly. Mr. Ellerby, he said, addressing Raymond formally. I know we haven't, spoken much, but, if you need anything, food, coffee, a place to warm up, just come in. No charge. Raymond looked like the ground had shifted beneath him. You serious? Yes, sir, the manager nodded. Consider it the least we can do. Before anyone else could speak, the door opened. Rain pattered on the sidewalk outside as a man in military fatigues stepped in, wiping his boots on the mat. He paused when he saw the crowd and the quiet reverence that had taken hold of the dining room. He looked toward Raymond, then to Jasmine, then at the teens. What happened here? He asked, not accusing, just curious. The answer came not in words, but in how everyone looked at each other. Like they'd just come out of something larger than themselves. Something real. Still, the one who had cut deepest, the boy in the beanie, stood slowly, his voice uneven. I'm sorry, he said, looking directly at Raymond. I thought I was being funny. I wasn't. Raymond didn't smile. Didn't soften. Mean words come easy, he said. Fixing them takes longer. The boy nodded once, then walked toward the exit. No posturing. No jokes. Just silence. His friends followed. Quiet. Diminished. But as they reached the door, Red Hoodie stopped and turned back. He looked directly at Jasmine. I'm not posting the video, he said. I'm deleting it. For real. She didn't smile. Just nodded. Good. And then he was gone. 2 hours later, someone from the back corner who had been quietly recording, without cruelty, without malice, posted a clip to Facebook. The caption read, "A teen worker defended a homeless veteran today at McDonald's. The way she did it. I'll never forget it." By midnight, the video had 1.2 million views. By morning, the news vans were parked outside. And Jasmine Holloway had no idea she had just changed a man's life, and maybe the lives of everyone who witnessed it. Jasmine was halfway through her morning commute, hoodie pulled tight against the cold, earbuds humming low, when her cousin's text came through. "Yo. Is this you?" Attached was a grainy video. The thumbnail showed her in her McDonald's uniform, sitting across from Raymond, face calm, hands folded. She blinked twice at the screen, hit play, and watched. It was her. From the side, from someone else's perspective. The moment she slid the apple pie across the table. The moment she stood, eyes locked on the boys, telling them to try being decent human beings. She froze on the sidewalk. The video was everywhere, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, even Reddit. Her face. Her name. People praising her. Commenting things like, "Real hero, this girl gives me hope, the future is Jasmine Holloway." But she didn't feel like a hero. She'd just done what her gut told her was right. When she arrived at work, the parking lot was half filled with news vans. Her manager stood by the side entrance, red-faced and overwhelmed. "Jasmine, there's media here asking for you." Reporters. One of them's from Channel 7. "I don't know what to tell them." She exhaled. "Tell them I'm on shift." Raymond wasn't there when she clocked in. She scanned the booths automatically, stomach clenching. For a moment, panic gripped her. Had it all been too much? Then, just after lunch, the phone rang behind the counter. The assistant manager picked it up, called her over. "It's for you." Confused, Jasmine took the phone. A woman's voice came through, clear, soft, professional. "Hi, Jasmine. My name is Bethany Rollins. I work with Veterans Connect Ohio. We saw the video, and we'd like to speak with Mr. Ellerby. We can help." Jasmine's breath caught. She scribbled the number on a napkin and tucked it into her apron. When Raymond walked through the doors a few hours later, looking cleaner, slightly more rested, and still deeply unsure of everything, she handed him the napkin like it was a lifeline. "What's this?" he asked. "Somebody who might actually give a damn," she said. Raymond didn't take it right away. He stared at it, like it was made of glass. "I don't know what to say." "Start with hello," she said. That same evening, the local news aired a segment on the story. They interviewed Jasmine briefly outside the restaurant. She didn't want attention. But when they promised to highlight Veterans Connect and Raymond's story, she agreed. The piece ran during the 6 p.m. broadcast. 200 miles away in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a retired Marine named Walter Vick was watching. His daughter had shown him the clip, thinking he might know the man. "I'll be damned," Walter whispered, eyes locked on the screen. "Raymond Ellerby. He's alive." Walter made a few calls. Pulled a few strings. 2 days later, he showed up outside the same McDonald's in Cincinnati, a truck full of supplies in tow, along with 2 friends from his VFW post. Jasmine came out during her break, blinking in the bright afternoon sun. "Can I help you?" she asked. Walter grinned. "Looking for Raymond. He still liked those cinnamon rolls from Speedway?" Jasmine laughed. "He mentioned it once." 10 minutes later, Raymond walked through the door, and stopped cold. He saw Walter. The look on his face was like seeing a ghost that brought nothing but good memories. "You look like hell," Walter said, voice gruff but warm. "You don't look so great yourself," Raymond replied, the faintest smile cracking his tired face. They didn't hug, not at first. Just nodded. Like brothers who didn't need to say much. The reunion made the news again, local, then national. And Jasmine? She watched it all unfold on the couch, cereal box in her lap, phone lighting up with texts from friends, classmates, even a few strangers. Her name kept coming up. Her photo. Her face. But behind all the media noise, something real was happening. Raymond had a clean pair of socks, a caseworker from Veterans Connect, and an offer to stay at a transitional housing unit. No more gas station parking lots. No more damp alleyways. No more sleeping with one eye open. Still, he didn't sleep much that first night indoors. The quiet was too clean. Too sharp. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and remembered the day his wife left. The sound of the door. The silence that followed. His son had been 8. "Is Dad okay?" the boy had whispered from behind the hallway wall. He hadn't seen his son in 15 years. But the video changed that, too. The next morning, he walked into McDonald's with something different in his posture. Not pride, but release. As if the weight he'd carried for years had shifted just enough to let him breathe. Jasmine spotted him immediately and smiled. "You look taller," she joked. Raymond grinned. "Must be the clean socks." They sat together at their usual table. This time, no brown paper bag. No ketchup packets. Just 2 bottled waters and a biscuit Walter had picked up on the way. "You good?" she asked. "I'm better than I was." He paused. "Got a call this morning. From an old VA housing program. They saw the video. Said if I come back, they'll fast-track me. Counseling. A permanent spot." Jasmine lit up. "That's amazing." Raymond nodded, chewing slowly. Then his voice dropped. "Also got a message." She waited. "From someone else." "My son, Jackson." Jasmine froze. He saw the video. His wife showed it to him. Said they've got 2 kids now. Wants to meet. Said we could talk. Raymond didn't sound proud. He sounded scared. "I don't know if I should," he said. "I want to. But what if he's just doing it because of the video? Not because he actually forgives me." Jasmine leaned in. "Maybe," she said. "But maybe he just needed a reason. Doesn't mean it's not real." He didn't respond. Not right away. Just stared at the table, the past pulling at the corners of his eyes. "You going to call him?" she asked. He sighed. "I want to. I just." Then she said the words he needed to hear. "He saw something in you. Don't push it away just because you're scared." Outside, it had started to rain again, soft, steady, cleansing. Raymond looked out the window, then back at her. "Never thought I'd be getting parenting advice from a teenager in a maroon visor. Never thought I'd be defending a grumpy old man in the middle of a lunch rush," she shot back. They both laughed, and this time, it wasn't bittersweet. It was real. That afternoon, Raymond did something he hadn't done in over a decade. He walked into the public library, removed his hat, and nervously asked a volunteer how to use a computer. The keyboard felt alien beneath his fingers, but with the volunteer's help, he created an email account, the first he'd ever owned. In the message to his son, he didn't try to explain the past or justify where he'd ended up. He simply wrote. "Jackson. I saw your message. I'm scared too, but I'd like to talk. I've missed you every day. Let me know when you're ready. Dad." 2 hours later, a reply came. "Let's meet next week. Bring your stories. I'll bring the coffee." Raymond stared at the screen for a full 5 minutes, motionless. His eyes welled up, but no tears fell, not yet. He walked outside, into the gray drizzle that softened the streets, and sat on a bench near the entrance. And then, quietly, he let it come. Not grief. Not shame. Release. The past hadn't disappeared. But it had loosened its grip. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, Tyrell Gaines, the boy in the red hoodie who had filmed everything, was having a rough day of his own. Since that afternoon in the restaurant, he hadn't been the same. The jokes felt stale. His friends' group chat now felt cold. Teachers looked at him with a different light in their eyes, not condemnation, but disappointment. That hurt more. Even Mr. Lowen, his social studies teacher, pulled him aside. Saw the video, he said. Tyrell braced for a lecture. But Mr. Lowen simply said, "You've still got time to do better," and walked away. Later in the hallway, another student passed him and muttered, "Real brave clowning a homeless vet, huh?" Tyrell didn't have a comeback. Nothing felt like enough. He could apologize forever and still not erase that day. By nightfall, he knew what he had to do. He went online, found the original video, and read through the thousands of comments. That's when he saw someone had tagged Jasmine Holloway in the replies. Her page was private, but her work listed the same McDonald's where it all happened. The next day, after school, Tyrell walked through the same door he once laughed his way into, but this time, his head was low and his steps were quiet. He waited by the counter, backpack slung low, hands stuffed deep in his hoodie. When Jasmine stepped out from the back to wipe down tables, she spotted him immediately. She didn't smile. Didn't move toward him. He stepped forward. "Can I talk to you?" he asked, voice unsure. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at him like she was trying to see who he really was now. "Please," he added. Outside, they sat at a metal table near the drive-thru, next to a humming trash bin and the roar of traffic. It wasn't private, but it felt separate enough for what needed to be said. "I was the one recording," he admitted. "I didn't post it, but I didn't stop it either. I laughed. I thought it was funny. I didn't know he was a veteran." Jasmine cut in, firm and fast. Would it matter if he wasn't? That stopped him cold. His face fell. "I guess not," he murmured. "Or, it should have mattered anyway." He looked up at her, finally holding her gaze. "I've been thinking about it every day. And I know saying sorry doesn't undo anything. But I mean it. I really am sorry." She didn't rush to reply. Just watched him, arms crossed. "Why are you really here?" He shrugged, then said something he hadn't admitted to anyone else. "Because I didn't like who I was in that video." Jasmine's expression softened, slightly. "Just enough. That's a start." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that lingers before a decision. "You want to make it right?" she asked. He nodded quickly. "Yeah. Anything." "Good," she said. "There's a community event next week. For veterans. Raymond's going to speak. I'm helping organize it." He blinked, surprised. "Seriously?" "Yeah. You show up. Help set up chairs. Pass out water. You listen. You learn." Tyrell hesitated. Then nodded. "I'll be there. Don't show up for the cameras," she added. "Show up to show up." He stood too. "I will." As he turned to go, he paused. "Thanks for giving me a chance." Jasmine didn't say anything. She just nodded. Not forgiveness. Not approval. Just a beginning. 1 week later, the American Legion Hall on Reading Road filled with more people than it had seen in years. Rows of metal folding chairs stretched wall to wall. An American flag hung behind a makeshift podium. Tables near the door overflowed with cookies, bottled water, and flyers about veteran mental health and homelessness support. Raymond stood in the hallway, just out of view, pulling at the collar of a shirt that didn't quite fit. His shoes were borrowed. His nerves were real. I can't do this, he muttered to Jasmine, who stood beside him. You've survived worse, she said. Yeah, but those didn't involve microphones. She smiled. You got this. They're not here to judge. They're here to listen. Inside, people were already seated. Veterans from Vietnam, Korea, Iraq. Civilians. Families. City officials. Even some of the folks who'd been in McDonald's that day. Tyrell was there, too. Early. Quiet. Folding chairs. Handing out waters. He hadn't spoken much, but he hadn't stopped working either. When Raymond finally walked in, heads turned. Someone clapped. Then another. Soon the room rose, not in loud ovation, but in quiet, powerful respect. He stepped behind the microphone. It wobbled slightly. He cleared his throat. I'm not good at speeches, he began. I'm not a politician. I didn't write no book. I didn't graduate college. A small chuckle echoed through the room. I was a Marine, he said. I did 2 tours. I buried more friends than I care to count. And when I came home, I didn't know how to be anything else. The room hushed. For a long time, I was angry. At the system. At my family. At myself. I ended up on the street. People stopped seeing me. To them, I wasn't a person anymore. I was a smell. A threat. A mistake. He looked out at the crowd. But then one day, someone saw me. His eyes landed on Jasmine. She lowered her gaze. She didn't know my name. Didn't know what I'd done or lost. She just sat down and treated me like I mattered. And that changed everything. He swallowed hard. I'm still working through it. Still climbing. But I'm standing here because someone chose not to look away. When he stepped back, the crowd didn't erupt. They stood, slowly, steadily, and gave him the kind of applause you only give someone who earned it the hard way. And in the back, Tyrell stood straighter than he had in days. After the applause settled and the chairs began folding, Raymond stood at the edge of the stage, shaking hands with people who'd waited quietly in line to speak with him. Some were veterans, sharing a nod or a memory. Others were civilians, teachers, students, neighbors, just wanting to say they saw him now, truly saw him. Tyrell waited until the line had nearly disappeared. He stepped forward, slower than before, but taller somehow. Mr. Ellerby, he said, voice quiet but clear. Thank you. For everything you said today. Anne. I'm sorry again. For what I did. Raymond studied him a moment. His eyes didn't harden. They didn't soften, either. They simply saw. What's your name again? Tyrell. Raymond nodded once. All right, Tyrell. You messed up. But you showed up. That's how people change. He extended his hand. Tyrell took it. A firm grip. A real one. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was something just as valuable, respect. Jasmine watched from across the room, arms crossed loosely over her chest. Her job was done. She hadn't spoken tonight. She hadn't needed to. Her actions had already echoed louder than any speech could. And yet, something told her that this moment between Raymond and Tyrell, was the real story. When the last chair was stacked and the final cookie was eaten, Jasmine approached Raymond as he packed up. So, how's that housing situation looking? Raymond smiled. Walter made a call this morning. Said they're reviewing my paperwork. I might be moving into a permanent unit next month. Real bed. Door that locks. Hot water. She grinned. That's huge. Yeah, he said. Then paused. Got a meeting with my son tomorrow. Her face lit up. For real? Raymond nodded. He wants to bring his kids. We're gonna talk. Just talk. She touched his arm lightly. That's everything. He looked at her for a long moment, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded napkin. The number you gave me? Veterans Connect. It changed everything. I kept this, just in case I forgot where it all started. She took it, blinking back emotion. You don't need to carry this anymore. I know, he said. But maybe one day, someone else will. The next morning, life in Cincinnati resumed like any other. The buses ran. Horns blared. The McDonald's on Vine Street filled with its usual noise, shoes squeaking, orders called out, fries dropping into hot oil. But inside, something had changed. The staff noticed it first. Customers were kinder. Slower to complain. Faster to smile. More likely to say, thank you. And once a week, like clockwork, Raymond showed up for his coffee. Same booth. Same spot. But not the same man. His clothes were clean now. His face smoother. His eyes lighter. He had a place to go, appointments to keep, a family he was trying to rebuild. Jasmine always joined him for a minute or two, sometimes longer. She still worked her shifts, but she was saving now. Saving with purpose. She had a plan. One day, she wanted to become a social worker. Maybe even run her own nonprofit. Because once you see what dignity looks like when it's returned, it's hard to look away again. Tyrell came by the week after the event, alone. No friends. Just himself. He asked Jasmine if McDonald's was hiring. She raised an eyebrow. Why here? She asked. He shrugged. I want to be better. I figure starting where I messed up, makes sense. She nodded. You show up on time. You do your job. You treat people right. He grinned. Yes, ma'am. A month later, he was behind the counter. New uniform. Fumbling with the register, sweating over fries, but focused. Present. One afternoon, an older woman dropped her tray trying to balance her purse. Tyrell rushed over, helped her clean it up, and brought her a fresh order with a smile. Someone in the corner snapped a photo. Posted it later with the caption, "That's the kid from the video. He's not the same anymore." It didn't go viral. It didn't need to. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to keep living. Raymond once told Jasmine something that stayed with her long after he said it. People think hitting rock bottom happens all at once. But sometimes, it's just one fall after another. You don't even notice how far down you've gone, until someone finally reaches in and grabs your hand. But what he said next, that's what stuck with her most. Climbing back up doesn't start with a plan. It starts when somebody stops pretending you're invisible. She carried that with her. Not as a weight, but as a purpose. Now, every time she clocked in, she scanned the room. Not with pity. Not with judgment. But with awareness. She saw the people sitting alone. The ones who hadn't smiled yet. The ones staring into space like maybe they were holding on to nothing more than a cup of lukewarm coffee and a long memory. And sometimes, that's all it takes. A smile. A warm pie. A seat across the table. Because change doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes, it starts when someone simply says, "I see you." One moment of kindness can change a person's life, and ripple through an entire community. What started with a cruel joke turned into a movement of compassion, respect, and redemption. As Raymond said, fixing words takes longer. But it's never too late to try. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember, we all have the power to choose kindness. Subscribe to True Echo for more powerful, real stories that remind us of the best in humanity. Leave a comment below, what would you have done that day? And don't forget to like and share this video. Because sometimes, change starts with one seat at the table.